Starting off today with Night Owl La Chope Stout from La Chope Brewery. They don't have any tasting notes on the can other than to describe it as strong beer. Brewed and packaged in Winnipeg. Not quite as roasty as I was expecting, but pretty nice. So today, I'm taking a look at this thing. Yeah, it's a drone. It's something that... Okay, you know how when people start knowing that you tinker with electronics, you become the I know a guy who knows a guy who gets stuff sent to them randomly that's not working? Yeah, that's what this is. Let me get it out of the box here. So here's everything that comes in the box. I'll save you the unboxing because it's already been out several times. There is the drone itself, and you know it's the drone because it says drone on it. You have a charging USB cable for the battery that's in this guy. You have a remote control. There's this little clamp leader guy which clips on there, and then you can put your phone on there for using it for FPV, theoretically. Then on the bottom of this guy, we have a camera which looks incredibly cheap and plasticky. And this whole thing actually is really cheap, plasticky feeling. Like, yeah. What else do we have here? There's some spare parts back there. It's manual. These motors, or these propellers, I think they just... Oh, there's a little screw in the middle of them. Okay, that's something. They are geared. So there's the motor shaft, and it gears onto that. You can see the little tiny toy motor underneath there with... can you see the gearing? Yeah. And there's this itty-bitty battery compartment with this itty-bitty LiPo, which says 3.7 volts, 500 milliamp hours. And I've already charged that because, you know, that's boring to watch. And then, of course, there's a couple of bits of manual here. This is just very generic for all their models. It doesn't give you very much information, just how to connect it together, basically. And this one is a little manual for the app to put on your phone to do the FPV thing. Not concerned with that at the moment. Bag of spare parts has a couple of little screwdrivers, a couple of loose screws, and 2 propellers. I assume one's a clockwise and one's a counterclockwise. Hopefully we won't need those. So, as I said, the complaint that this thing came in with is it don't work. So it chirps, flashing. It doesn't say anywhere in the manual, but flashing indicates that it's not paired with the with Droney McDrone face over here. So power him on, and absolutely nothing happens. Normally there would be flashing LEDs in these 4 wings here, or struts or whatever they are, matching this thing to indicate that it's not paired. But there's absolutely nothing. Propellers didn't do a twitch or anything when you powered it on. So, I'm hoping that the problem is simply just a wire disconnected inside. And the obvious thing to do about that is to make use of these little screwdrivers that they give you. First, I think I'll take the Wii camera off. There's a little notch there, and pull a little micro GST. Wow. You remember that SQ8 miniature camera that I got a few years ago? It's heavier than this, and it feels more substantial than this. And this one's also got a little Wi-Fi transceiver built into it, and a camera, and somewhere I read that it takes an SD card, but there's no place to put an SD card in there. Anyway, these landing struts are just friction mounts, and they come off quite easily, so I'll get them out of the way. I think I will pull this little LiPo out of there. And so I did charge it, and it only took 50 milliamps, so I think I got it charged from Buddy's friend that sent it in to me. Yeah, 4.19, so that's a fully charged LiPo. So this thing has 1 screw down there, 1 there, and the same on all 4 of the wings, arm struts, whatever they're called. And there are little Phillips, which these little included screwdrivers work with. There's another little tiny screw right down in the end there. Sneaky little buggers. Now let's see if it wants to come apart. Easy. Not easy. I need to take the propellers off. I have to make sure I get them in the right orientation too when I do that. That one's A1, and there is a little arrow there. That one's a B1. That one's a B1. That one's an A1. Those little arrows that are on the fuselage there don't, I mean, they show which direction it turns, but that's not going to help me if it's not actually turning. So I'm just going to make up a little paper label so that I can get it back together properly when I put it back together. Okay, there's those off. Now, what happens? I separate that. Okay, that part comes off cleanly. So we have on each arm, we have a tiny motor. We have a 3mm LED. The motor goes onto a small gear, which goes onto the big gear, which goes onto the propeller on there. That's multiplied 4 times around the horn. Then down in the middle here, we have the power cable going into, and there's a little cage for the battery. And then down underneath there, we have a control board with more screws holding it in this little cage here. As cheap as the plastic feels on this thing, and as generally low budget as it appears, looks like they actually put a little bit of engineering thought into it. Or perhaps they ripped it off from somebody else who had done the engineering and they just said, yeah, let's go with that. That would be what you call a flight controller board, I guess. You have one big chip, a little one there, a couple of transistors, a few diodes by the looks of it. Not too much on there. Obviously all the thinking's going on in there, which makes sense. This is probably just a standard remote control board. KY505R 2020 vintage. What's that? Is that a little crystal there for the microcontroller and whatnot? Probably. Then what's that guy? It's got a little hole in it. That is a barometer type air pressure sensor kind of unit for, I guess, to act as an altimeter. Because this thing does say on the advertising stuff that it can hold its altitude. So that's probably what that is. The main chip calls itself F25155. And that guy is M36LD9. No idea. I'm going to go and look these up, see if I can find anything. Probably doesn't matter because they're probably purpose-built chips just for remote control aircrafts, I would guess. After snooping around for far too long on the interwebs, I could not find either of those part numbers. But just looking closer at the board, the main chip here has a capacitor that connects it to the antenna, so it's obviously generating, well, it's generating the RF. No, it's not generating RF, it's a receiver. That's what's going on with that. And then this one is connected to that little barometer type of device, and then has a few lines going over the controller. So I'm going to guess that it might be like a gyroscope type thing for sort of position, control, movement kind of thing, so that it can tell when the thing's sitting level and when it's spinning, what direction it's spinning and stuff like that. That'd be my guess based on, limited knowledge of remote control aircraft and what they need to do their job. But none of this helps us to get any closer to figuring out why this thing's not working. So I will just do the basic stuff. So is the power even getting through those wires? Yes, it is. Okay. And it's just a matter of looking carefully at things and figuring out where the power goes and where it disappears. So we should be able to follow a few things around on the traces. There's the power switch over here. This is the connector for the camera. And then you can see the LED plus and minus and motor plus and minus all the way around here. And it appears that the positives are all common and the negatives are switched in all the cases, from what I can tell anyway. Could it be as simple as just a bad switch? That would be fun. Yeah, power switch works okay. And if power gets over to there, I have to dig some more, I guess.
Much later.
I didn't see any obvious shorts on the back of the board, and all the pins on the ICs are making an electrical connection to the board. They all flowed, except for that one right there, which is not on a pad and specifically has a no pad under it. This guy looks like it's soldered down okay. So I don't know what's going on here. I have a bad feeling that maybe this main chip has been smacked somehow, or is just bad from the factory. Even though some of these solder joints in the back look a little bit crusty, they all seem to be making good electrical connection. I am not able to trace down easily. Well, I mean, I can find power and ground going into this main chip here, but I don't know if that's the only places it needs to go. And I don't know how the chip's supposed to react to that, so I'm kind of dead-ended a little bit here, which really sucks. I was hoping that I could actually repair this thing. So I guess this is the point in the video where it becomes a teardown. Let's see what's inside the remote control. How's that going to come apart like that? Sure. There's the main board with all its traces and stuff, all the buttons punched on there, and just one chip with some kind of kind of goop that's rendering it unreadable. That's disappointing, but again, we can guess that that's a microcontroller because there is what looks like a little crystal beside it, one little transistor kind of device. J3Y, that is just a standard transistor. Yeah, 12 megahertz crystal. So that's obviously a microcontroller integrated kind of RF chip. Not surprising. Let's dig further just since we're this deep. Why not? Okay, the mechanical stuff's going to be an issue to get back together. Wonder why one joystick came off, the other one didn't. Huh. Those look like the same cheap Chinesium joysticks that come in some of the Arduino starter kits and that I've got in a couple of my little kits too. Okay. Standard tactile buttons, a little buzzer there, more tactile buttons, a little push on, push off. There is the antenna. It has nothing to do with this little molded on antenna looking thing here. It was just kind of lying down in there. Wow. All done in this one little chip that I can't read. Looks like we'll have to get our little micro screwdrivers back out again for this one. There's 4 screws on it. And just comes apart like that. Okay. So there we go. We have the antenna, we have the power cable, we have a little flat flex going down to the camera module itself. Anyway, the board calls itself a KY48_Y5 2020 vintage, like everything else we found. A test points on the back, an inductor over here, a few transistors, 8-pin IC, and then the big main IC, which is a 40 megahertz crystal with it. Again, obviously microcontroller, video processor, probably transmitter. Yeah, the RF comes up on this little trace here and goes into there. So again, in all-in-wonder chip. And again, they're trying to hide from us. Based on my luck on the other main chips, I'm not holding out any hope that I'm going to be able to find that one either. So this guy seems to be interfacing with the camera through those little resistors there. Not entirely sure what it would be doing. Maybe sending control signals, and then the data comes back and gets magicked in there and transmitted. It is a neat little package, though. Wonder if we can power that guy up and try and make it do its magic. It appears to have a 3.3 volt test point on the front there. And the battery power that it'll be getting from the main unit is coming from, what is that, from the LiPo. So yeah, the battery voltage goes directly to the connector for this camera. So I'm wondering if that little 6-pin chip there and the inductor are forming a little power supply circuit. That would make sense, wouldn't it? Got my power supply over there set to 4.2 volts, connected to here through these little tiny little clips. So I'll turn that on. Yeah, 4 volts there, close enough. So I would hope that this test point in the middle of the board, 3.3, just like it claims to be. Yeah. Oh, hey, there's a little LED flashing on there. Can you see that? That's promising. That tells me that at least the camera works. Now then, how to connect to it. Oh, hey, look at that. That one just popped up. Let's just see what that is. So I've downloaded the app that comes from this QR code on this little sheet of instructions here. And we'll see what happens. Camera mode. Is there anything there? Oh! Let me just try something here. Appears to be a functional FPV camera. That's kind of cool. And as long as I can keep it on the on its Wi-Fi, then it seems to work. So I could probably just strap a little battery to this thing and use that if I need a wireless FPV camera. Let's just take a snapshot. Okay, and let's just take a video of that. And I will edit this little clip of video in when I'm doing the edit. Let's just look around a little bit. That's probably the easiest thing to look at. Or maybe the carnage of the drone that this thing belongs to. So I guess that means I've got something that I can put back together here anyway and make use of, although I don't know why I would want a FPV camera that's only 720p, but that's something anyway. The transmitter probably works. It's just this receiver board here that seems to be unhappy. And that's the unfortunate part about these single chip solutions. There's nothing really to fix. As long as there's power going into it, there's not much else you can do with it other than replace the chip, I guess. Except for it's not a chip that I could find a datasheet for anywhere on interwebs. So, sadly, my buddy, you're going to have to tell your friend that this thing is DOA. If he wants to go flying, he's going to have to get himself, might I recommend, a drone that's from a reputable supplier that has a return policy, rather than wherever Chinesium store he bought this from. I don't know. What do you think? Comments and questions down below in the comment section as usual. Yeah, I guess that's it for this one. I'll talk to you later.